Hey, Simon, how's it going, man?
Hey, good, you?
I'm doing well. Good to see you. So you got your
Yeah,
hurt shirt on. I guess I
yeah.
just
I
figured this
I
already.
always have to display my race. That's my subtle way of bragging all the time.
Well, thanks for showing up. I'm excited. I'm excited about this new content format and just seeing what we can create here together in this space. It's a little different format, I think, for both of us.
Yeah. I'm super excited too. I feel that when I make videos, it's very much a monologue, and I want to be a stand-up comedian, so that works a little bit. But sometimes a dialogue with certain topics will be super helpful. And obviously, we've raced together. We have both different experience, so I think that's going to be also very productive, especially that you're a coach. So that's actually amazing.
Yeah, I'm excited about the format. You got a ton of great content out there. You have, uh, I think I've been in the space maybe longer in the ultra running world, but gosh, you
Yeah,
have
you've been running what, 40 years?
a long time I've been running.
How are your knees, Brian? I think I'm gonna ask you
My
that every
knees,
week now.
yeah. I think actually I just got that question the other day, believe it or not. And I just shake my head. I was at the hot springs pool after I ran the last day of January 31st. I ran 24 miles for completion of a challenge I was doing. But short order, an old timer in the hot springs pool literally asked me that question. How are your knees? How can you keep running? Right. And I was like,
I can't help noticing you didn't answer the question, Brian.
my knees are fine. My knees are fine. Yeah.
Good,
Yeah. My
good,
muscles are
good.
sore, which is good too. But yeah, nothing to do with the knees.
Cool.
Um, hey, I just got a text message from a kid's parent. I have my phone over this side here. Cool. Hey, Simon, we met in, I want to say it was pre-COVID, 2019. Am I making that
No,
up?
no, it was
Was it
it was
post-COVID?
Leadville 2021.
Oh, 21. Okay, so it was
Yeah,
post.
yeah,
Okay. It
yeah.
was Leadville. And maybe you could touch on that a little bit, and I'll fill in the gaps because we both have two sides of that story, I
Because
believe.
clearly you don't remember much of it. Yeah, yeah. So I just got into ultra running more or less with COVID actually. So that's why I actually know the detail of when it was specifically.
Hmm.
And I was doing the Grand Slam that year. I didn't have nearly as much experience. Maybe I had 400 or 500 milers already. And there was this guy, the tutu guy. What's his name? Keith, I think. Do you know the tutu runner? He's one of those 100 miler. Anyway, I raced with him at Old Dominion and was like, Leadville is the hardest race out there. I'm always like a few minutes only below cutoff. So it really got me stressed about the race. I was super nervous. So we went in Leadville early to scout a little bit and meet people, and we met a common friend. We met Mickey and Tracy, and they gave us a bunch of good tips. Then eventually, my wife Nora was going to crew me, and that's where she met you. And obviously, she's much nicer than I am. So you guys became friends. I hadn't seen you at all. You introduced me to Tom, who became my pacer for Leadville, or most of it. I think he did like 20, 24, 26 miles. And then we met after the race. And I was like, who the fuck is that guy? But but things have evolved since then. Obviously, we've raced a lot together, including Badwater. So thank you again for that. That was amazing.
Yeah, so my side of that story is I was pacing in 21, I was pacing Colin,
Mm.
and you all met at the pre-race dinner up at gosh, what is that place called? I
Yeah, I
can't
can't
remember. It's
remember.
the depot or it's a train station, an old train station. I can't remember the specific name of it, and I'll have to find out for you. But shorter, you guys met at a cool little pre-race dinner, an exclusive dinner too, a little compact. And so yeah, I think you all sat together. It was Simon or you and Colin and Mickey were all the runners, and then all your significant others were there, and you met. And so Mark and Leanne and I showed up to pace our runners, and it was rainy. We're at Twin Lakes. It's overpopulated. It's all those things of Leadville that you and I know. But if you don't know, it's a bit overwhelming if you're a first timer for sure. Twin Lakes didn't used to look like that, but it does now. So it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I remember Nora kind of being a little quiet and standing to the side, and we had a 10 by 10 pop up, and it was raining, and we were like, just come stand under the tent. It's fine. Like, you know, like you're only going to take up this little space. Just get in here and stay dry at least, because it's going to be a long day. And so she agreed to that. And yeah, we befriended her, and she said she was pacing, but she was nervous. And I was like, really? And so just by a fluke chance, I had a friend that lives fairly close enough that he was able to drive over and meet us and pace you. I think he paced you all the way to May Queen, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Nora did the end.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Thomas and I are still friends. Thomas and I have been longtime runners, friends, and he's doing great things in Colorado Springs. So we could talk about him some other episode. But yeah, that's our connection. So that's kind of funny.
Yeah, and I did sub 25 thanks to you guys that year.
I'm sorry.
So I did sub 25 that year thanks to you guys. So I got my big buckle.
Okay.
And actually,
that was the year you got the big buckle. Nice.
Now that you mentioned the dinner, I remember actually the first time I ever heard about you, you were texting Mickey during the dinner, and you sent your buckle, obviously pictures of all your buckle, and that was very impressive. And of course, Mickey's response was, "I see a lot of small buckles in there." And I was like, "I like these guys, just jabbing each other a little bit." So yep, that was Mickey right there.
Yeah, and I mean, get to not date ourselves, but even last night and this morning, we were still texting with Mickey in a thread with Nora, Mickey, Mark, and Leanne, and Tracy, and Mickey. We're all texting about an event that Mickey was just in. So
yeah,
so we still have that connection.
Mickey's the opposite type of runner than I am, I think. He is an extremely fast runner, and he does not slow down. It's either he explodes or not, and he has amazing finish time, but also that means sometimes he blows up. Whereas for me, I'm very quick to say, I'm gonna walk this hill. I don't care anymore.
It's the ability to revert back to like a B goal, right? Like, all right, I'm going to go for the A goal, and I'm going to try to, maybe PR or set my own course record on this particular course that I've done before. And I think that's Mickey's goal a lot of the times, but he doesn't have a B goal that most of the time. It's either
he's all or nothing. Yeah. Which I totally respect. He goes deep into the pain cave to make it happen and to run with like Ian Sherman and these type of runner. Whereas I'm like, I'll take a picture with them, but I won't run with them. I know I'll blow up. So very impressive guy.
I see them out on the course, but it's on the reverse side when we're
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Cool. Let's just kind of dive into maybe the next topic a little bit. I was looking at my race calendar and then yours. And it's funny because we follow each other on social media, and I put mine out just a couple days before you, I think, or a week or so before you. But mine is three good events. I got Cocodona 250 here in May. I'm back in Leadville for potentially my 9th finish. Speaking of Leadville, just a few seconds ago, and then I'm going back to Moab for my 3rd attempt there, or hopefully my 3rd finish. I do have 2 attempts with 2 finishes at Moab 240 in October. And my structure of my season this year was really just kind of like bookending May and October with some hard challenges, but I really want to focus on Leadville, quite honestly, and I'm trying to go for a fast time, or faster than I have been in the last couple of years. I've been in that 29th hour, the golden hour, way too many times in the last few years. And I'm getting close to that 10-year mark, 1,000 mile mark, which potentially could be 2025. So, but I really want to get some wheels and a little bit of speed back into my legs instead of trying to crush just all these finishes. I really want to go for a big buckle at Leadville. So I think that allows me some time in the middle to not have everything so stacked up on each other in the middle. And so my Instagram post, Facebook post was just one little block post, and then yours came out just the other day, and I had to slide through it. I think I counted either 16 or 14.
Oh, see that's the funny thing. I don't know how many races there are.
Yeah,
I don't count.
Did the math. I think it was 16 or 14
probably
events
14.
this season, and there's a couple that are still questionable. I believe you're still in some lotteries for them. So I explained the structure of my season. What does your season look like, Simon?
Yeah, I hate training. So the best way to not train is to always be in cycle of tapering and healing. So that's why I have so many races. But I don't have necessarily a race like you said for Leadville, where like it's clear if you want to finish strong, you gotta have a buffer period, and I don't really have that. I'm still on a roll of trying to do more or less 100-miler every month. But the goal is not so much to do one every month. The goal is more to do all the race I want to do. And I know that doing more than one every 3-4 weeks is just gonna totally destroy me. So that's the general idea, and I won't go through all of them. But short term, I have Black Canyon, which by the time this is out, Black Canyon is probably out, and Ultra Jackpot, same thing. But I tried also this year. There's a lot of discussion with where the sports is going. Some race organization maybe doing things that they shouldn't be doing, and we might talk about that later. But one of the positive news, and I'm someone who's trying to be more positive about things, is more trying to find a solution, is the World Trail Major, which is trying to acknowledge different race organization across the world. And I'm trying to do as many as possible. Truth is, I'm not sponsored, so I am broke all the time. So it's easier for me to race in Arizona because we live in California, and then fly back home in Quebec and then race Quebec Medical Trail. So that's going to be fun. The other big thing I'm doing this year is I'm doing my first 200-mile plus. I'm going to do Cocodona with you. So I'll need some help, and we definitely need to talk about that someday. And I put my name in the lottery for Tour des Géants, TDG in Italy. And that would be the top race that I've ever wanted to do. I just always felt I was not ready for it. But I think this year is the year, at least, to go in the lottery. So this year is the year that my name is not picked. Next year is the year that I race it, I think. So we'll see. But very, very excited about this year. Very excited about sharing that, of course, with people. I think there's a lot that can happen in 1 year. So we'll see how it goes. It's aspirational at best.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's kind of funny because I think we have different takes on a season. So I actually didn't enjoy last season where I raced once a month, just for 4 months in a row. I felt like I missed out on summer in the Colorado Rocky Mountains. Like, I was always recovering other than racing. Like, I want to go out on the weekends, during the week. I want to go hit some 14ers and do all these things. And all last summer, all I wound up doing was just recovering, spinning my legs on a bicycle, and just trying to maintain some sort of recovery and a minimal amount of fitness to get into the following month's race.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because you're right. And for me, racing during the summer is my way to actually have a summer. Especially, so last 2 years, we spent about 3 months in Colorado in the mountains. And sure, in between race, sometimes I cannot run as much, but I can go hiking. I can go do 14ers. I think I've done like 45 or 46 of the 14ers in like the past 2 summers. So healing forces me to actually say, okay, yeah, today we're hiking. We're not running. And as opposed to having a like training block where I'm trying to do 20, 25 miles, I'll just go do my hike, and I'll be with Nora. We'll be traveling, discovering places. So yeah, that's kind of my way to actually have a summer. But my boss is less supportive for this year, so we'll see. We'll see how long I can.
My boss is too. I totally get it.
Yeah, you work for yourself, right?
Well,
okay, I mean, and your wife maybe.
and she lives with me.
Yeah.
In the same house. We sleep in the same bedroom together. Yeah, so I get it. Yeah, some of my struggles are geared with just travel and kids events. I got 2 school-aged daughters at home. They're really active. They dance, they play volleyball, and so always trying to work around their schedules as well. So my schedule is a little less flexible, but yeah, that's life, and that's the way it works. And
for sure. And I think, we're not pro runners. We're hopefully relatable, but you have to do what you can with what you have. And I always say it all the time. Sure, I'm someone who's very driven and can find times, and that's how I'm able to travel all the time and do all of these races. But if you have kids, it's a little different. So there's definitely a part of why I'm racing so much that it's now or it's gonna be in 20 years. So let's do it now. The body is still able to just bounce back, not immediately. Like, quite frankly, I see people bouncing back the day after a race. I'm like, dude, I'm not that age anymore. It takes me a solid week to be well enough to jog, which is a misconception.
Just wait, it's coming.
It's going to be longer than 1 week.
I'm going to be 50 in May.
I know. You said you were not going to age yourself, and we were pretty close by saying you ran for 40 years, but now you just age yourself.
Yeah,
When's your
well,
birthday?
40
You
years,
should
we
say
got to
the
do the
date
math
now.
somewhere along the line. How old am I, right? If I've been running for 40 years.
Yeah. But you were, and when you were younger, you were doing more like track or like actual running, you know, which is also really cool. I mean, that's a lot of knowledge that you have right there. Whereas I'm a late bloomer. I was not running before 30. So
Yeah, definitely. I was a prodigy kid growing up. I ran the mile and the 2 mile on the track all summer long. I went to every 10K, 5K every weekend across northern New Jersey that my parents would take me to. That's kind of like where I got my start in the sport of in love of just running in general. Obviously, this sport's a little bit different, ultra running. It was around, quite honestly. We know Leadville started in 1983, and I was probably doing those things in 1984, 1985. That would have been me being 10, 11, 12 years old.
wow.
So,
I'm
so definitely I was in the space, in the running world. I had some great coaches that went on to do some incredible things. And it's always been a part of my life. A lot of things have changed in my life, but running has always stuck around. I did transition to triathlon, and
It's
that kind
okay.
of more.
Nobody's perfect, Brian. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's a safe space.
But I quickly transitioned out of triathlon into ultra running, and
Yeah.
in 2010 when I did my first Leadville pre-kids, that was my best result and best time at Leadville. To go back to the former thread,
Yeah.
but in general, I enjoy the sport, the space, and all that ultra running has offered, and that I've helped to establish for myself between my own business and coaching that I do full time, and all the friends and camaraderie, all the text email threads that we have going on between our friends that are racing currently this weekend or not. So yeah, it's been an interesting journey and just super fun to be there and kind of see it all happen. But we do have some issues, right? If we can probably touch on them quickly. But what about UTMB and the state of the sport? I guess is a good segue into that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I did have question for you, but I'll reserve for another episode. But yeah, I mean, I think it's good to level up with people and like why we want to talk about it a little bit. I mean, myself, I might even make a video on my channel. It might already be out about the whole UTMB situation. And I feel that a lot of the voice that are heard are either pro runner or the race organization and normal people, average people that I think the sport is our sports too. It's not just the fastest runner out there that the race belongs to. It's not, whoever wins Leadville is the one that owns Leadville. I think the last finisher and the first finisher should have their say. And we're a little voice. We don't have as much weight, but I think creating a dialogue amongst people is important. And I think if you want, I can just give a brief overview of the situation. I'm curious if you have more takes on it, because I'm not an expert on it, but the
Yeah,
reality is that
I think just for context and purposes, if somebody doesn't know,
exactly. But I
give
don't
the
know the
bit of
detail,
what's
and
going
the
on there.
truth is the average runner doesn't know the detail. But the latest kind of update, of course, was like the whole Gary Robbins situation. Gary Robbins being a very well respected and very well known ultra runner, but also race director. He had a race in Whistler. The race was kind of pushed aside because of how it was difficult to deal with Vail Resort. We learned this fall that UTMB is launching a race pretty much the same date, pretty much the same place. And then, of course, that leads to speculation. Was there foul play a little bit? Or was it just Vail that were being dicks? And I think if UTMB had been a race organization that was seen positively, people would have just said Vail Resort are assholes, and that would be the end of the story. But truth is, UTMB, which has done a lot for the sport, denying that UTMB, the race itself, is a great race would be insane. It's the world championship, and it's an amazing race, and I would love to do it someday. But that leads to, just like any other big race, it's tough to get in. And then they create the monopoly system with the stone system that has rubbed people the wrong way. And one of the reason it rubbed the wrong way is because Ironman bought a share in UTMB. And it's very easy to draw parallel between UTMB as a final and Kona. And just the monopoly system of Ironman, where you have to race other Ironman race just to go to Kona. It's going to cost you probably $20,000, $30,000 to race the race. And that just doesn't sit well with trail runner. So sure, the Gary Robbins situation sucks. But did they do anything bad? I mean, I was not in the meetings. I have no clue. But the stone system, the monopoly system, the perception that it's getting more and more commercial, and that other small race organizations that are just doing that for the love of the sports are getting pushed around, I think that's where people actually have an issue. And that led to some pro runners, Zach Miller, Kilian, Jornet, sending email to all elite runners to rethink a little bit if they should meet somewhere else instead of UTMB, because UTMB is not the official final of anything. It's just best runner go there. So winning UTMB is a big deal. But if all the Kilian Jornet of this world would say, hey, we're racing Leadville next year, then the big race becomes Leadville, and that's the race that is important. Did you receive an email from Kilian and Zach, or?
It might be in my junk spam box.
I think so too. I think so. I blocked them. You know, Kilian writes to me all the time. I was like, dude, you're just annoying. So I blocked him. But yeah, no, they did not email me. Too bad. But yeah, and that's their take. And I think different group have different priorities. Obviously, the race, they want money, which is fine. Making money is not a problem. Being profitable is not a problem, and they will make money with sponsors and also with registration. Pro runner want visibility, they want sponsorship, they want money too, and that's normal. And I think the little guy, what do we want? Well, we just want a good race, and we don't want to overspend. And we want also maybe a race that supports the local community, supports the sport in general, is environmental conscious. So we have kind of different priorities. And that's where I think we need to ask ourselves, where's the sport going? And are we okay with some of the direction? So that's my monologue for now. Mike, to you now.
I think it's it's definitely interesting. It's actually obviously a hot topic, at least in the most recent news, and where it's at. I'm not sure if there's a good platform for the mid-packer to join the conversation. And so no offense to the pros that are, I'm sure they can send emails around to each other, and maybe they didn't get mine, but it's Brian at altitudeendurancecoaching.com if you're interested. I mean, if you want to just put that.
If they're looking for a coach, you know, Zach Miller should write to you.
So with that said, I think it's an interesting point. I don't think there's any discredit to the mid-packer. I don't think they were trying to leave us out. I just think that they operate in a different platform than we do, and that's fine by me. I understand that to a certain degree. For some reason, UTMB has not been on my radar ever prior to this whole conversation, prior to Gary Robbins. I'm not sure why. The stone system seemed a little weird. I think that's only grown. My lack of interest in it has only grown since Ironman bought it. I have Ironman experience. Prior, I did tell you I did a decade of Ironman racing, and it just kind of leaves a weird taste. I think there's a little bit of the sport of triathlon is dying, and maybe that's just my point of view because I'm not in the sport currently. But I think they needed to do something, and they see the growth of trail running, and so they quickly were trying to jump ship and come in, and I think everyone listening or viewing, however you're getting this content, you've been a witness to it. If you've been around for at least a year or two, you've been a witness to the fact that they are swooping up a lot of the events locally. Just the race down the street from me in Grand Junction, Colorado, which is about an hour away. That race is now a UTMB sponsored race. They came in and swooped it up and took it off the calendar as a local event. Now it's, earning stones and all those things. They added a 100K event. So I don't know if it did anything, any injustice to that particular event or your particular event that you know of in your area. But it's the monopolization of it. It feels really not, it doesn't feel good. It feels, nothing against Walmart, but it feels kind of like a little bit of Walmart, going on, a little bit of, moving into the small town and building the big box store. And for lack of a better term, I think, nothing against Walmart. I do go to Walmart shop.
I think it's exactly what it is. It's a big corporation that comes in. And again, nothing against Walmart at all. I think there is a reason why Walmarts exist, and that's totally fine. But I do see a bigger problem when the mom and pop shop needs to close because of Walmart. And there might be an in-between. And I think it can help a local race to now be a UTMB race. They have resources, and now people want stone, so they will go and they will race your race, and that's fine. I think my issue is a little bit about the monopoly. If UTMB wants to be everywhere and have 50, 60 races everywhere across the world, I'm totally fine with that. But the stone system basically favors their race, and I think, look, if you put the race close to where you live, UTMB buys it, okay, fine. If you put a good event and you care about your runner, it's not overpriced, it's a good course, everything is good, people will come in, and that should be the end of it. You shouldn't have to say, and if you want to race our famous race in France, then you got to sign up to one of them. I think that's kind of unfair advantage there that I see as being problematic. When it was a point system, I was much more happy with that, and because they are not the only popular race that it's basically impossible to get in, and they just instead of picking races that are not only theirs, Hard Rock, for example, you're going to wait 8 years to get in Hard Rock nowadays, and you have to do a qualifier, but the qualifier are not picked because they own it and it's profiting them. They pick the race because they're relevant. They pick the race because it aligns with their value, which actually that's one of the reasons why there's so few Hard Rock qualifier, is they are careful about which race they admit. Whereas Western States is basically any race, but it's just a matter of qualification. So I think there's a lot of question, and I cannot fault UTMB too much. As much as I love to bash them, I think they're more symptoms of what's going on, and they're capitalizing on it. We've given them too much power, and they use it. And anyone would in their situation, well, maybe not anyone, but a lot of people would. It's just normal, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, if you have the means and the resources, you're going to go for it. I feel like on a smaller level, on a more local level, Leadville's done the same thing with Lifetime Fitness. When Lifetime Fitness came in and bought it, they created a little series, a little micro culture, and if you did this one, you got the potential to get into that one and that one and that one and so on and so forth. And I think it stung a little bit, but not as much as UTMB. And I think it's just because of the scale of it, right? The UTMB's done it on a worldwide scale, and Leadville's done it on maybe a mountain town, Colorado scale.
Yeah, and I think it's a great example, actually. I'm glad you're the one who brought it up, because I feel that Leadville would bar me forever if I say anything bad, and I love Leadville, so that's important to emphasize. But there's definitely been discontent about Leadville and the association with Lifetime. That's every year you hear people complaining about it, saying that it used to be a great race and it's not anymore, and it's a shit show and whatever. I actually disagree with that. I do feel sometimes it felt corporate, but every time I had an issue, I was able to speak with someone and we were able to resolve it. And I can really see that they care about the community. They still do a lot of charity work in the area. And for me, that kind of is their saving grace. And the other aspect of it is they use their race, let's say Silver Rush, you can get a ticket for Leadville from there. But it's not the only way to get in, although it's pretty tough to get in Leadville. So that's a whole different issue about the lottery and not being super transparent about it. But you don't have to do it. And I think UTMB, that's definitely a direction. And that's also where I want to try to be positive, is that I think UTMB has done a lot for the sport, and they can just change a few things. And I think that would go a long way. And for me, look, you want to, instead of the stone system, do the same as Leadville. You win one UTMB event, you're qualified for UTMB, but still most spot would be for people that didn't necessarily race a UTMB race. But you still have an incentive. You can still go and like you're part of a draw or something on your event, but you can also just go race UTMB, plain and simple, because you're lucky you got in the lottery system.
That's more like on the Western States side.
Yeah, exactly.
The golden ticket process, right? And they're not you're not buying into the stones or the process or anything. If you want to be elite and you want to run at the front of the pack and you want to earn a golden ticket, that I think some of the races you're going to have golden tickets at them.
Yeah, I'm not planning to get a golden ticket like that. Well, but they can do that. And Western, what they could do, but Western, it's not their race that they're giving golden ticket. I actually don't know the politics of what race is a golden ticket race, but I'm sure there's money involved in there because that's kind of a big deal. But they could also say, look, the top 2 runner will get a ticket, and we're also the 300 other runner that finished Black Canyon, we're gonna have a lottery, and 3 of you guys will randomly have a ticket for Western if you want it. And that's it, you know. But Western is too small to do something like that. I think it's what, like 300 runners, so obviously they can't really give out too many tickets. But what UTMB could do that for sure.
Yeah, it'd be a different play on it. I mean, I think there's a lot of options that they could come up with. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think in the most recent news, they came out with some generic statement.
It
I
didn't
mean,
say
really
much,
generic, like something like copy and pasted from, you know, like a decade ago, when Ironman had issues, you know.
They're trying to do damage control, and they're trying to take back the power. And I think for me, the other solution, and that's the solution if UTMB is the one kind of initiating and understanding that the stone system is just pissing off people. And if you have a good race, you don't need the stone system. I think the other direction would be, it comes from Pro Runner a little bit, and you have a professional trail runner association. I just don't know how much coverage they have and how much power they have. But one of the reasons UTMB has become what it is now is because they have too much power by being de facto world championship. If the Trail Running Association decide, like, all of our members, like, we pick a race every year by vote, anonymous vote, and this is the final this year. It could be Leadville, it could be UTMB, it could be any race, and we, within the rules, it can be the same within a 5 years period, and we make sure it goes everywhere across the world. It's not just Europe and North America, which is also kind of an issue. There's growing market everywhere. We'll pick a race in Asia sometimes. We'll pick a race in South America, and that will give visibility to races that are very good, but also because it's a vote, any race organization that would treat runners like shit or have a bad reputation or doesn't align with values of trail running, they would need to change things. Otherwise, they'll never get elected. So I think pro runner like Kilian and Zach, they were not calling for a boycott, but I think that's kind of the direction they were thinking. It's, if we all agree that Leadville is where all the good runners are going to go, that's what matters. This year, winning UTMB, it's always a big deal, but it's not the race to win. And it's not the race to say, look, I'm faster than Jim, I'm faster than Kilian, like Salomon sponsor me. And I think that would go a long way. And that would help UTMB also save their image, because now they would need to focus on being a good race and doing their little things and not having to worry so much about so many sponsorship and having basically being overbooked all the time. So
I'd be curious to see how the pro field, I don't know, the top 25 men and women that are winning these events would feel about that. I've always thought the same thing, and the same thread, same vein as you. I always want to pit the top 25 people against each other. I mean, not in a good way, like just to see who the top is. You know, can anyone run with Courtney? You know, and it's usually the scheduling is the issue. Like, oh, like maybe this runner that might be able to run with Courtney has done a different event, right? And so I kind of like that idea or that format where you're trying to group the fastest runners together to make an actual event, to see how the cards fall out, because it's always interesting to see, oh, like, I don't know, we'll say, like, I'm just using names here, like Annie Hughes as an example, right? Like how does it play out in her schedule as opposed to like a Courtney DeWalters, right? And are they missing each other throughout the whole season and not really getting one quality event in that they're racing each other, as an example? I'm sure they've raced each other before, but what I'm getting at is, like, it can.
I'd be curious to hear what they think, because I think on the flip side, the reason why they would be defensive about that is, look, if the 24 top runner are doing the same race and I'm 25th, I'm just gonna go UTMB and I'm gonna win. And sure, you know, it's not the final, but it's still a major race. So I can see how they probably sometimes pick very strategically the race that they're doing. If they know that, you know, Francois and Jim and Zach and Kilian are all racing the same race, there's no value for a pro runner finishing 8th. So I think if they did that, I think they would, well, first they would get a lot of power, so they would be able to sign sponsorship, and maybe they're able to have a good prize money or something that goes beyond just the visibility of winning the world championship, which is like a nice bragging right. But you have to think about whoever finishes 7. If there's no value finishing 7, then they won't come, and that's where very quickly it just doesn't work. So maybe you have to have a big prize pool, or maybe if they have enough money, just the fact that they participate, you have some kind of stipend or something. I don't have like the exact format, but I see it as a dangerous that, well, everyone is racing this race close to Western State. I'm gonna do Western State and like win easily. Like,
well, you got that trail series that you were just describing, and you're going to one of the events in Quebec, I believe.
Yeah.
Is there any buy-in to that? Have we seen any buy-in to that process just yet? I mean, I understand it's a trail series and it's maybe a recreation or a new creation of something that's been done in the past. But again, if we're not buying into it, or the pro field, that top 25 that we're discussing, aren't buying into it, then it doesn't really hold as much clout in my mind.
That's exactly the issue, I think, with the World Trail Major, and that's partly why I want to race these races and make YouTube videos, is to give visibility. Because if there's no buy-in, and I understand the pros won't care so much, but if at least average runner are like, hey, that's kind of a cool concept, that can help them gain legitimacy. Because the issue with a series and a score system like that, so the way it works for people who don't know, there's now 10 races, I think, and your top 2 race will give you points, and whoever has the more point will win. Now, the issue with something like that is that it becomes very strategic about which one you pick. Just pick the race that no other pro runner, well, I mean, there will always be pro, but pick a race that you feel confident getting a good ranking. You don't want to go the same day that Courtney is going. Go a different one. She's not going to do all 10 of them. And that can lead to something that's first not super exciting, because the winner won't be decided on a specific day. It might be they race the first 2 races of the year and that was it. And the winner might never race second place. Like, they never actually went against each other. So it's hard to say you won because you have more points than the other person, but the other person just picked the wrong race. So
I don't know. Do you know how it works? Like, so here's my question.
I don't know the details.
Like, yeah, I don't know either. What I'm getting at is, if you ran 10 events and I ran 2, do you just assume more points because you ran 10, or is it
No, because they only pick, and I might be wrong about the 2, but that's what they were saying before. But like, if I ran 10, they will pick my 2 best ranking in there for the points.
Sure.
So the advantage of running more than 1 is if you have a bad day, it helps. But racing 10 of them, well, first, it's impossible. Some of them are the same day, which also is problematic in a race format. But yeah, so it's about being strategic.
You couldn't even do 10.
No, you can't. It's not feasible. So I think that's an issue a little bit. I think what they could do, though, is that the point system would qualify you for kind of a final or something, and then you have a specific race that we have to watch and we have to be excited, and they pick a different one every year out of the 10, and the prize for the race to be potentially the final is to be someone part of the organization. We'll see how it evolves. It's been done before, and we'll see. But I think one other aspect that I very much like about the idea of changing what would be the world championship is just making it happen is difficult. But UTMB is a specific type of race, and you have a lot of bragging right if you win that. But there's other types of race, and we see it with Western State, for example. You have Javelina or Black Canyon or Golden Ticket race for Western State, and they're kind of not exactly the same type of race. So some people will perform very well at the race like Javelina. They will do like 12 hours or 13 hours. And sure, they're good runners, but maybe not for a Western State, and even less so for a UTMB. So at least if it was a different race, you would have more your desert fast race, you would have your mountain hardcore race, and you would have your hurt, and it would be the jungle and different types of climate. So it would be a more well-rounded profile of trail runner, as opposed to you're used to the Alps, because I mean, Jim Wasley moved to the Alps to be able to win the race. If it was the secret ingredient to win, that's great for him. But what about people that don't have the resource to do that? Is it unfair that he can train in the same type of terrain than someone who lives in Phoenix or something? It's kind of odd a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think you see that in the pro field. I mean, there's a lot of pro athletes moving to Leadville, moving to Flagstaff, moving to the San Juan Mountains. I mean, I think you know, and so Jim moved to Europe to be specifically on the course.
I would love to do that.
You should totally do it.
I should do it. I should do it. I'm waiting for
sponsorship. That's the problem. Who's gonna?
Yeah, I need a sponsor. I need a sponsor, and I don't think my well, I would be finisher 1,000 on UTMB or something like that. So I don't think that's gonna cut it. So it's good.
So it's actually funny that you say that, because I was just thinking we haven't even brought up the name yet of the show that we're doing, and it's and I think we've sort of agreed on bombing on ramen. So maybe ramen will pick up the bill. Maybe we can get like an official sponsorship through ramen.
I mean, seriously, I
eat darn enough of it to earn a little bit back from them.
I mean, can I plug my actual, like, not quite sponsor, but they should be? There's definitely Coca-Cola and there's definitely McDonald's. I mean, I know they're not usually sponsoring athletes, but it's a match made in heaven. There's no question there. I'm very into their product. I actually calculate the calories for Coca-Cola in some of my race, and at least a third of my calories come from Coke.
And that you're like doing that methodically, like on a spreadsheet, right?
Yeah.
I thought I remember that. Yeah, I knew that. But
it's an actual thing. Like, I actually calculate. I do it for my channel to know, like, okay, what's up? How many calories I have? And you would think that a lot of calories come from gels because you feel you take a lot. But when you make the math, it's like, yeah, I had 15 gel, which is a good amount. But that's just 15.
A lot of soda, Simon. I mean, I've paced you, and I've been at different events, and you drink a lot of soda.
Yes, Dr. Pepper is better, but it's usually there. They don't have it at 8 station.
Under the Coca-Cola umbrella?
Huh?
Is Dr. Pepper under the Coca-Cola umbrella?
Oh wow, that I'm comfortable talking politics about UTMB, but Coca-Cola and soft drinks, like, I draw the line there. They could destroy my life. So no, I actually don't know. I don't think so, but I'm not. I don't know.
I don't know if it's standalone. I think it might be under the Coca-Cola umbrella.
Could be. Could be.
Cool. Hey, so quick thought about that. Do you know what comes from ramen? What calories come from ramen?
The amount of calories?
How methodical is your spreadsheet for nutrition?
So the way I do it is, because I'm filming my race with the GoPro, after each aid station, I say very specifically what I had, and then I'll calculate. So for ramen, it really depends if it's like one of these square cubes, and usually you don't have the full pack, so it's a little hard to estimate. But from one of these bowls, it's 390s, which is solid, but it's a lot of ramen. Like, you really have to sit down and eat that. So, but it's good calories. Yeah.
So they might be second tier, like a silver sponsor. And
a silver sponsor, yes, that's true.
Coca-Cola.
Yes, exactly.
Oh man, we got our hierarchy already. So Coca-Cola and ramen, if you're out there, we're here. We're ready to talk.
We're here, ready to rock and roll. And McDonald's, honestly.
McDonald's. I'm not McDonald's, but
I'm not a fan. But after a race, when I'm super hungry, you know, like when the hunger comes after, like, I don't know for you, but for me, towards the end of a race, I really can't eat anymore. And then eventually, maybe a few hours after, it kind of picks up, and my body's like, it's time to eat, Simon. And McDo is a good one for me because you can get like 3,000 calories for. Well, it used to be cheap.
Pretty quickly.
Yeah, they used to be cheap, but now it's not cheap anymore. And they have usually you can refill your Coke, and I think that's actually why I like it so much, because then I'm going all the time. So I probably get more calories from the Coke there also.
Out of the fountain machine.
Hey, $1 for unlimited Coke. I mean, they're not making a profit out of me. Let me tell you that.
Other news, just thinking, did you see the Olympic marathon trials this weekend?
I have not, but what happened there?
Man, it was super exciting. So I'll briefly give you the recap. Men's and women's Olympic marathon was in Orlando, Florida. It was a super nice day. It looked like it was, I watched it on TV, so I wasn't there firsthand, but it looked like it was a super nice day. It was partly cloudy. It got up to 75 degrees by the finish line, but they started out early enough that it wasn't that hot when they started. Nice big packs, everyone playing nice and playing fair. Man, it was awesome. I'm just into running, and I was super excited. I was like a little kid. I was sitting like I could sit on my couch and watch TV, but I was sitting on the floor in front of the TV watching it. That's how intense I was into it. The men's race, just to briefly recap, stayed together for quite a bit, maybe up to mile 16 or so. And then Zach Panning, gosh, what an effort this guy had. He's a Brooks Hansen sponsored athlete. He leads this charge, and he's pulling Young and Mance along with him, two other guys who are teammates. Mance and Young are teammates together, and they were sort of the favorites coming in, or not even sort of. They were the favorites coming in. They have qualifying times already. In short order, the three of them go, and Zach is just driving this little three train of guys, and they're just sitting on his shoulder, and they're in great spirits. And it's interesting to see, because I haven't seen it before, or you see it less likely than in the trail world, but they were supportive of each other. They were giving little, not high fives, but little slaps of the hand, the teammates, little encouraging words. There was some dialogue going on where they were talking to each other at the water stations, like, hey, you're looking good, stick with it. It hurts, but it was encouraging to see that. They were encouraging each other, and the two teammates were actually encouraging Zach as well, who's not their teammate. So the drama was unfolding. If Zach ran under a 2:08 something, I can't remember. I'll make it up. A 2:08:30. I don't know what the actual number was. It's 2:08, mid 2:08. 2 hours 8 minutes and some change in seconds. Zach would have got a third qualifying spot for the U.S. team. There was only two allotted. And the third spot could only be guaranteed if the third person ran under the 2:08 qualifying standard. So it didn't happen in short order. Zach's wheels fell off, and you just got to feel for the guy. His wheels fell off. He went to the back of the threesome and was holding on for a while, and they were encouraging him to stay with us. They were acknowledging the fact that he made the move. He did a lot of the work to get him to 22 or whatever mile later on into the race it was. And it was exciting, but the wheels fell off, and the elastics just started snapping, and it just went backwards for Zach, unfortunately. I was on the floor in front of the TV rooting for him. For me, it's like super exciting. I'll tell you the side story after the fact, after I give the recap of both. The two teammates go on to win. They are encouraging each other all the way to the line. Smiles across the board, and they take 1-2. If I'm looking, Courier came in third. He might make the Olympic team at 2:09:57. But what's going to happen is the other countries will have to establish their Olympic teams based on times, and if there's room, they'll backfill it with an American third, who could be Leonard Courier at 2:09:57. Zach winds up falling all the way back. I mean, not all the way back. It sounds dramatic the way I say it, but he fell back to sixth overall. He ran at 2:10:50. So just an amazing effort all across the board. Really exciting on the men's side. The women's side, quite honestly, wasn't as exciting, at least from my point of view. Fiona O'Keefe, I don't know where she came from, this mid-pack of 20 girls, 20 of these elite runners, and just starts driving this thing and just breaks the elastic. And she runs solo effort to the finish by herself. She ran a 2:22:10. Emily Sisson, who I was rooting for, came in second at 2:22:42. So she was 32 seconds back. And Dakota Lindworm, who did initially make a move and was driving the group, took third overall. And on the female side, for the U.S. women, 3 spots were available. So Dakota did make the team, as opposed to the men's side that only had 2 spots available. I was rooting for Sarah Hall as well, always a great athlete, super inspiring. A lot of her Instagram stuff is really super cool in the space. She fell back to 5th, came across the line at 2:26:06. And I want to say that the standard was set at 2:26:30-ish, and I don't know that for a fact, which means, looking at the standings behind the camera here, that it fell to 8th place, that made the Olympic standard for the women. So super fast times for them. Really exciting race, and just kind of a great feel for early 2024 and what the Olympics might look like for us as a country moving forward here for the Paris Games later on September, I believe, roughly.
I'm kind of curious because I don't nearly know as much like with marathon, but my impression is that their races are very destructive for their body in comparison to trail running, where it's not that we're lazy, but I think because we don't push to these pace, pro runners are able to race a little more. Like Courtney, obviously, like Courtney is a beast, but she raced like, oh, I'm doing Western and hard rock, then UTMB within what, like a 4 month period, which is insane. But for marathon, it feels that's not very possible. They typically do what, 2 or 3 years. And if O'Keefe, I think, won Boston last year, right? Like on the ladies' side, or maybe finished second.
I don't know off the top of my head.
Maybe I'm confused. I'm terrible with names, but I thought she did. I thought she did really good. Anyway, but what's gonna happen with Boston Marathon in a year like this? Like, because
it's a good question.
All these runners, they're blown out. They're not ready for April. All the Americans are not ready, and a lot of the qualifying times or race will be around this time. And then you have September or whenever the Olympics are, and you got to prepare for that. So what gives,
So it's interesting. That's a good question. I believe that some of these participants that may not have made the team might continue on with some fitness and run the world the world majors, Boston being one of them, or the first one in kind of the realm, because it's I don't know, in an Olympic year, it may be more low-hanging fruit, and of course, I don't mean it in a derogatory term by any means.
We're still not winning, Brian.
You and I are I saw them win, but it's from the TV screen because I can't run nearly as fast as they can.
And in a qualifier like that, they were what, like 30 runner or something like that?
Oh, probably more.
Do they pull the plug sometimes? Because if you see you're not top 5, like what's the point? Like then
definitely. You're shooting for, on the men's side, you're shooting for the potential of a third spot if you run the qualifying standard 2:08 and change. So definitely 2 are going, but the third is a question. And so I think that was Zach's feel for it. Like and the 2 guys that did win already met the standard, so they didn't have to re-meet the standard, if that makes any sense. But Zach would definitely needed to make the standard as well. But in short order, 3 females are accepted and going to represent the U.S. There's obviously an alternative, the 4th place female, and the 3rd and/or 4th place male will be the team alternative in case something happens to one of those athletes. But otherwise, you got maybe 4 spots deep, and you got 40 plus.
And then you kind of know, right? Like I feel that you kind of know if it's not your day, especially at that level. Like they know themselves, and sometimes it's not your day. You're halfway through, and you're like, look, like there's no way I'm catching up. And then what? You're destroying your body. So
yeah, a lot of them did pull the plug, and in the live coverage, you could they were giving us updates on who got spit out the back and who just walked off the course. It was a 2-mile loop and then 3 8-mile loops, and so no one was too far from the finish line to pull the plug and call it a day, and maybe save it for a Boston or another event if it wasn't their time. So yeah, and then even like Molly Huddle was dealing with a knee issue, and she gave up her spot just a few days before the event, so she didn't even toe the line. So maybe she'll be back and healthy to race the Boston and the other ones coming up, but she won't make the Olympic team on this go around. And there's I'm rooting for him. It's exciting to watch it on TV, but then when you see the 4th, 5th, 6th, and later finishers coming in, like they've spent so much energy at this, racing and training for 4 years for one shot, and it's heartbreaking. It's similar to the golden hour at Leadville, like when you see these guys coming in and they might not have enough real estate and enough time, or too much real estate and not enough time to get to that finish line, and you start to get choked up for them. It's kind of an emotional deal, and these guys put in 4 years of effort to to show up 5th place or later, and it may not happen for them still, you know.
Yeah, it's a rough format when you think about it, but I cannot imagine a better format to do it. But to qualify for the team, it's based on one event on one day, and if like you're fresh out of an injury, you could be ready for September and you could be a better runner than someone else, but it's just really the timing is not good, and that's it. 4 years. I mean, it's not like they don't race other race, and it's not like there's major marathon, but I find it rough for them. I feel sorry for them.
Yeah, a lot of them. Jenny Simpson, Molly Huddle, Kira D'Amato, they all pulled the plug. So so it'll be interesting to see how they go. Others that you got Lindsay Flanagan and Des Linden. They did finish the race under 2:30, easily under 2:30. Des was 11th overall. I'm a big fan of Des. Galen Rupp on the men's side, he was still 2:14.07. Just a lot of good names in there, and then a lot of DNFs on the men's side that pulled the plug, realizing, hey, I'm not going to make this move, and I'm falling behind. So interesting format, just different than the sport that we're used to, and how we race in our structure. Particularly you and I, Simon, in the middle of the pack here.
Yeah, yeah, we don't. But it's more, the Olympic is a weird race to begin with. Like, it's not open. It's not like you can have 10,000 runners. Because if it was the case, then it wouldn't be as big of a deal to qualify. Then it's more a matter of like, you got to win that one. And I feel some of the major might be a little bit more like that. And well, not anyone, but any pro runner can run Boston. Like, they all qualify for it, obviously. And then it's may the best person win today. But of course, that wouldn't work for an Olympic. But yeah, different format.
Well, that was my weekend. I was super excited to watch it. So the drama with that, I was going to go back and tell the side story. The drama with that is that my neighborhood, I live in a small little community outside of town. I live in the county limits, not in city limits. And I don't know, I've only lived here 8 years, and the neighborhood's much older than that, in sections of it. And so they're doing phases, and they're on, I don't know, phase 6 or phase 5, and they're going to build another cul-de-sac or 2 with another 10 homes in those cul-de-sacs. And they've been doing some work, some infrastructure work is what I should call it. So just the beginnings of it, right? And recently, our neighborhood has been experiencing these power outs or brown downs, and just kind of these things. And so no other time, yesterday morning, I'm watching the Olympics and the power goes out. I'm watching the Olympic trials and the power goes out, and I have to, and it goes out for 10 seconds, comes right back on. And you would think you just turn your TV back on, but I do live out of town and all these things. So I have to reboot my TV, and my TV has to connect to the Wi-Fi in order to run. And of course that takes time. And by the time I get it back on, I got it on one of the first few times, and within 30 seconds it went back out, and it takes like 4 minutes to get back on, which over the course of 2 hours and 8 minutes isn't, critical. But oddly enough, I missed the men's finish because of a power out.
Oh no!
But I had it on record, and I was able to watch it after the fact. But I was watching it live and wanted to watch it live. I have a little mother-daughter apartment in my basement in my house, actually right behind me. And my renter Tom, he's a real great guy, super nice. He came over last night and was just chit-chatting. He said he heard me cursing through the wall. and he obviously knew that the power was out, because the power would go out and then I would cuss, and I'd have to restart the whole system and turn. And then I was, I explained to him the story. I'm like, normally the power going out, it's not that big of a deal. I'll find something else to do. I'll go shovel the yard. I can do the dishes, whatever it is, like I can find things to do. I said, but it was because I was watching the marathon trials live. Power goes out 6 times during it, so just kind of frustrating on my personal
wrong timing.
But yeah, and here I am in front of the TV, like just hitting the button, like restart, trying to get it to up and run. So hopefully we can. Hopefully, if my HOA is listening, you guys will get that shit figured out.
Yeah, that's funny.
So that's my drama for the weekend. But anything else you could think of before we wrap it up for the intro episode?
No, that was fun. That's fun.
Yeah, it was good. I think we got a good format. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and we'll work on refining it as a process along the way.
Oh yeah, we should ask question for Coach Brian.
Oh yeah, I think we got some formats coming up. So I think the structure is ask the coach a question. I think our current events, we kind of nailed it this particular episode, but we could always have that. Our format is also to bring on some guests as well. Obvious, not maybe it isn't obvious. Hopefully, I think people would get bored with just you and I having a conversation all the time. So
I think so
we'll bring
too,
on some
very
guests.
quickly.
Definitely bring on some guests. So
Yeah.
so I want to make that clear. It's not just going to be you and I talking about nothing or something. But anyway, definitely bring on some guests. And we also have some ideas on bringing some regulars and maybe and not so regulars on the show, and just kind of having a more of a conversation with some other people in the space. Yeah, and
Yes,
I think that's
spouse also, so de facto crew and pacers.
Yeah, spouses. Yeah, we're talking about our spouses. We have a good friend that that really follows the sport at all levels, at the pro ranks all the way down to the back of the Packers. Mark is a podcast aficionado. I think he said to me like a podcast suggestion once a week. Hey, you should listen to this one. You should listen to that one. It's great. I love it because I need that kind of stuff to kind of find those nooks and crannies in the space.
Yeah, curated material. It's marked approved, so that's good.
So, oh shoot, what is the guy's name? Bill Doper. Do you know who Bill Doper is?
No.
So Bill Doper. Bill Doper's an old timer guy. I'm not sure of the history of Bill Doper. We probably in one of the next few episodes probably should ask Mark if he could fill us in on the more specifics history of him. But Bill Doper was what we called back in the day the super fan. He knew all the stats and all the numbers of every athlete, probably the top 50 in any particular race. I mean, if there was a betting sport, you could probably ask Bill Doper at the time, and he would know, like the odds of who could win potentially the event. And he was an old timer, didn't participate by the time I knew who he was, but he became a little bit of a legend in the space. There is a bench outside of what is the coffee shop in Leadville? Yeah, I have the hat.
Is there a Mountain Pass Cafe, or there's a bunch of names now?
You get all your mountain towns mixed up, I would imagine.
Yes.
But City on the Hill coffee shop in Leadville, Colorado has a bench out front that you could sit and enjoy your coffee and look at the views. And that bench is dedicated to Bill Doper,
Interesting.
The super fan. And so when Bill Doper was still with us, Bill Doper has passed on, unfortunately. When Bill Doper was still with us, I always referred to Mark as Bill Doper Jr. or the next Bill Doper, because Mark has a ton of that information as well. He's got all the stats, and in his unique position for his career, Mark works with headphones in his ears and listens to podcasts like all day long while he's doing his job. Most of the time, I don't know if I'm going to get him in trouble at work for doing that, but that's the case. That so he's just always listening to podcasts and keeping an ear in the sport and the space. So for me, Mark is like the super fan that knows all the ins and outs.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely have him, and he can share his knowledge and good recommendation.
And he'll be running Leadville as well this year with us. So
yes, it's gonna be a big one this year.
I know. I'd say
me, Mickey.
We should just all
Mark.
run together. I don't know about Mickey. I don't know if Mickey can run with us.
Oh, he's not.
No, he's in, but I don't think he could literally hang with us.
He's not hanging.
He's gonna go to the front
with us. Yeah, he's gonna go ahead. Yes, of course. But he's gonna line up ahead of us also. Yeah. Well, we'll be in Leadville around the same time, and the crews will be hanging out. That's the reality of it.
Jeez.
That means that Tracy and Nara.
We probably need a third tent out there at Twin Lakes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We need that. That's true. We'll be a lot of people, a lot of crew.
Well, I'm excited for the format, and I appreciate your time, Simon. I look forward to more conversations, open-ended conversations, and meeting and talking more about the trail running space.
Yeah, it's fun. It's gonna be fun.
Okay.
All right. Bye, everyone.